In the heart of the Caribbean, the Bahamas has seen ambitious developments, but not all became success stories. Welcome to the sun-drenched, turquoise-watered, postcard-perfect Bahamas, a place where dreams of paradise are not just sold to tourists, but also to investors with pockets deeper than the tongue of the ocean. You see, for every pristine beach and thriving resort, there's a ghost, the skeleton of a project that promised the world and delivered, well, a whole lot of nothing. These aren't just minor miscalculations, they are colossal monuments to ambition, hubris, and occasionally staggering incompetence. Tonight, we're going on a slightly different kind of island tour. Forget the snorkeling and the pina coladas. We're exploring the graveyards of grand ideas. We'll look at the rusting rebar, the crumbling concrete, and the faded signs that tell tales of billions of dollars vanishing into thin tropical air. From mega resorts that became financial black holes to a Hollywood in the Caribbean that never rolled a single meaningful frame of film. It's a story of what happens when big dreams meet bigger problems, leaving behind not just empty buildings, but a landscape of shattered promises and bewildered locals. So, grab your hard hat. You won't need sunscreen where we're going. We're about to peel back the glossy veneer of paradise to uncover the most pointless, most expensive, and most spectacularly failed construction projects in the history of the Bahamas. It's a journey that's part tragedy, part farce, and entirely fascinating. Let's dive in, shall we? The water's, well, it's probably stagnant and full of debris, but you get the idea. This is going to be quite the ride. Let's start with the big one, the Titan, the undisputed heavyweight champion of Bahamian boondoggles, Baha Mar. Imagine, if you will, a project so grand it was meant to redefine tourism in the entire Caribbean. We're talking a $3.5 billion mega resort. That's billion with a B, as in boy, that's a lot of conch fritters. The vision was staggering. Multiple luxury hotels, a massive casino that would make Vegas blush, a Jack Nicklaus signature golf course, and enough pools to drown an army of accountants. It was supposed to be the jewel in the crown of Nassau's Cable Beach. The initial developer, Sarkis Ismailian, poured his heart, soul, and a colossal amount of his family's money into this dream. Construction began in 2011, with China's state-owned Export-Import Bank providing the lion's share of the financing, and another Chinese state-owned company, China Construction America, as the main contractor. What could possibly go wrong with that cozy little arrangement? It's like asking a fox to both fund and build your hen house. You might get a hen house, but you might also end up with a suspicious number of missing chickens and a very smug-looking fox. Predictably, things started to go sideways. The grand opening, slated for December 2014, was missed. Then a new date was set for March 2015. That date also flew by like a startled flamingo. The developer blamed the contractor for shoddy work and endless delays. The contractor, in turn, pointed fingers back. It was a beautiful symphony of blame-shifting, conducted with all the grace of a back-alley brawl. The project was supposedly 97% complete, yet it stood empty, a glittering ghost town on the edge of the sea. Then came the inevitable. In June 2015, with the project bleeding money and no end in sight, Ismailian's company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in the United States. This kicked off a legal firestorm that spanned continents. The Bahamian government, terrified of this white elephant collapsing on its economic doorstep, stepped in. The whole mess was moved to the Bahamian courts, effectively wresting control away from the original developer. It was a complex, messy, and frankly heartbreaking saga of a dream turning into a legal and financial nightmare. After years of sitting in gilded silence, the Chinese banks seized the property. They eventually sold it at a massive discount to a Hong Kong-based conglomerate, Chow Tai Fook Enterprises. Yes, the same company famous for jewelry. Apparently, they decided to diversify from tiny, expensive things to enormous, unbelievably expensive things. The resort finally opened in phases starting in 2017, years late, and billions of dollars over whatever sane budget it might have once had. It was a relief for the Bahamian economy, but a bitter pill for the man who dreamed it up. So, what remains today? A fully operational, undeniably spectacular resort, But it's a success story with a giant, ugly asterisk. It stands as a monument to what can happen when grand visions get tangled in geopolitics, questionable contracts, and a complete breakdown of trust. It's a success built on the ashes of a colossal failure. The original dream died a very public death, and its ghost still haunts the hallways, a reminder of the billions burned to get the doors open. And while tourists now sip cocktails by its many, many pools, the story of Baha Mar serves as a chilling lesson. It's a tale of how a project designed to be a national triumph almost became its greatest embarrassment. It shows that even with billions of dollars and the backing of a global superpower, your grand design can still end up as a very, very expensive paperweight for a very, very long time. It's the ultimate cautionary tale written in marble and glass. The sheer scale of the Baha Mar roller coaster is staggering. Imagine being one of the thousands of Bahamians hired, promised a stable career, only to be laid off when the whole thing imploded. Imagine being a small business owner who invested in supplying the resort, only to be left with unpaid invoices and dashed hopes. The ripple effects of this failure were felt across the island, a stark reminder that when giants stumble, it's the little guys who get trampled. It's a story not just about concrete and steel, but about real human cost. If Baha Mar was a dramatic, slow-motion train wreck, our next project, Ginn Sur Mer, was more like a car that drove confidently into the ocean and just stopped. The ambition here was, if possible, even more audacious. In 2005, a Florida-based developer named Bobby Ginn arrived on the west end of Grand Bahama with a plan that sounded like it was ripped from a Bond villain's notebook. He wasn't just building a resort, he was building an entire city, a $4.9 billion luxury community. The plans were breathtakingly bold. We're talking thousands of homes, a mega yacht marina so large it would require blasting a new channel from the ocean, multiple golf courses designed by legends like Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer, a private airport, a casino and luxury hotels. It was pitched as the Saint-Tropez of the Bahamas, a playground for the world's wealthiest. They even had the audacity to call it Ginn Sur Mer, which is French for gin on the sea, a name that screams, I own a thesaurus and I'm not afraid to use it. To kick things off, Ginn did something incredible. He sold over $500 million worth of property in a single-day event. People were flown in on private jets, wined and dined, and sold a dream with such fervor that they lined up to hand over millions for lots that were, at the time, little more than lines on a map drawn over a stretch of scrubland. The hype was immense. It felt like the future had arrived, and it was wearing a very expensive pair of boat shoes. Construction began. They started digging the massive channel for the marina. They laid down the foundations for the golf courses. The initial infrastructure started to take shape, and for a moment it looked like this ludicrously ambitious vision might actually become a reality. The west end of Grand Bahama, an area that had been economically sleepy for decades, was buzzing with the promise of jobs and prosperity. Hope was the main commodity being traded, and the price was sky high. And then 2008 happened. The global financial crisis hit the world like a sledgehammer, and the market for speculative, multi-million-dollar vacation properties evaporated overnight. The river of credit that fueled projects like Ginn Sur Mer dried up into a desert of debt. Construction ground to a halt almost instantly. The machinery fell silent, the workers went home, and the dream died, leaving behind a scarred landscape. What's left today is truly surreal. It's a ghost grid of a city that never was. You can drive down perfectly paved roads, complete with curbs and streetlights that lead absolutely nowhere. They just end abruptly in overgrown bushes. The Grand Marina Channel is just a giant stagnant canal, a man-made swamp. The golf courses are fields of weeds. It's like a post-apocalyptic suburb, a haunting testament to a plan that was 100% dependent on a booming economy that ceased to exist. The legal fallout was, as you'd expect, a complete mess. Lawsuits flew from disgruntled buyers who had paid huge deposits for properties that would never be built. The original developer, Ginn, lost control of the project to his lenders, primarily Credit Suisse. The land has sat in a state of limbo for over a decade, a massive, multi-billion-dollar question mark on the tip of Grand Bahama. It's a permanent scar both on the land and on the psyche of the community. Unlike Baha Mar, which was eventually resuscitated, Ginn Sur Mer remains a zombie. It's not dead, but it's certainly not alive. It's a powerful warning about the dangers of building dreams on the shaky foundations of a speculative bubble. It stands as perhaps the most dramatic victim of the 2008 crash in the entire Caribbean, a silent, sprawling monument to what happens when the music stops and you're left holding a $4.9 billion bill. Now for something a little different. Our first two stories were about grand visions of luxury living. This one is about captive dolphins. And honestly, it's just as much of a fiasco. Welcome to the sad tale of Blackbeard's Cay, a project that managed to combine questionable ethics with spectacular business failure. The idea seemed simple enough on paper. Create a dolphin encounter attraction on a small private island just a short boat ride from the Nassau cruise ship port. The plan was to cater to the millions of cruise passengers who dock in Nassau every year, offering them a chance to swim with, touch, and take photos with trained dolphins. In 2013, 8 bottlenose dolphins were imported from Honduras and placed in sea pens at the facility. The developers, a group of local and foreign investors, plowed millions into building docks, gift shops, and other tourist amenities on the Cay, which was officially renamed from Balmoral Island. They were betting big on the enduring appeal of Flipper. However, they immediately ran into a perfect storm of opposition. Local environmental groups and animal welfare advocates were horrified. They argued that the sea pens were too shallow, too close to the shipping lanes of a busy harbour, and offered the dolphins no protection from pollutants or the noise of passing ships. They launched a fierce campaign arguing that this was not conservation but exploitation, and that the Bahamas should be moving away from, not towards, such attractions. The fight went to the courts. In a landmark case, the environmental group Re-Earth challenged the government's permits and approvals for the facility. What followed was a protracted legal battle that was as murky as the water in the dolphin pens. There were rulings and appeals, claims and counterclaims. The central argument was that the developers had not received the proper site and environmental approvals required by Bahamian law before importing the animals and starting construction. While the legal drama unfolded, the business itself was floundering. Despite its proximity to the cruise ships, the attraction failed to draw the expected numbers. It turned out that building a tourist trap is one thing, getting tourists to actually visit it is another. The project was hemorrhaging money. The combination of fierce public opposition, negative press, and a weak business model proved to be a toxic cocktail. In 2014, the Bahamian court sided with the environmentalists, ruling that the facility's approvals were, in fact, invalid. The court ordered the project to be shut down and the dolphins to be removed and sent to a suitable facility. This was a huge victory for the activists, but it was a death blow for the investors. The project was dead in the water, leaving behind a collection of empty buildings and, more importantly, 8 dolphins in legal and logistical limbo. What remains today is a complete and utter mess. The quay is abandoned. The buildings are decaying, victims of salt, sun, and neglect. The story of what happened to the dolphins is even more tragic. They were eventually moved, but their tale is a grim reminder of the consequences of ill-conceived projects. The entire venture was a masterclass in how not to do business. Ignore local sentiment at your peril, and if your business model involves sentient creatures, you'd better have your ethical and legal ducks in a row, or in this case, dolphins. Blackbeard's Cay serves as a potent symbol of a different kind of failed development. It wasn't just about money lost, it was about a fundamental clash of values. It shows that in the modern Bahamas, you can't just bulldoze your way to a profit. The public, the courts, and a sense of environmental responsibility are now powerful forces that can and will stop a pointless project in its tracks. It's a small abandoned island that tells a very big story. Every so often, a country gets the idea that it can become the next Hollywood. It's a seductive dream filled with visions of movie stars, glamour, and big production budgets pouring into the local economy. In the early 2000s, this dream landed on Grand Bahama, giving birth to the Bahamas Film Studios. The plan was ambitious, to build a state-of-the-art film and television production facility that would lure major Hollywood productions to the islands. The studio was built on the site of a former United States Navy base. It boasted one of the largest open-water filming tanks in the world, sound stages, and production offices. It had a genuine Hollywood pedigree too, as it was used for filming key scenes in Disney's Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Man's Chest, and At World's End. The scenes with the giant kraken and the maelstrom, that was all done in Grand Bahama. For a moment, it seemed like the dream was real. The success of Pirates was supposed to be the launching pad. The government and studio executives talked a big game, promising a steady stream of blockbuster productions. They envisioned a thriving film industry, creating thousands of high-skilled jobs for Bahamians, from carpenters and electricians to camera operators and special effects technicians. The Bahamas was going to be more than just a pretty location. It was going to be a full-service production hub. But after Captain Jack Sparrow sailed away, the phone lines at the studio went quiet. The steady stream of productions never materialized. It turns out that building a studio is the easy part, competing with established hubs like Atlanta, Vancouver, or the United Kingdom, which offer massive tax incentives, deep talent pools, and extensive infrastructure, is the hard part. The Bahamas had the beautiful scenery and a great water tank, but it lacked the critical mass to make it a go-to destination for anything other than very specific water-based filming. The studio limped along for a few years, hosting a few smaller projects and commercials, but it was a shadow of its intended self. The promise of a Caribbean Hollywood faded. The sound stages sat empty. The giant water tank, once home to a fearsome kraken, became little more than a very large, very expensive swimming pool. The dream of a sustainable year-round film industry proved to be just that, a dream. Today, the Bahamas Film Studios is essentially defunct. The facilities are still there, a collection of large, quiet buildings in Freeport. While it's occasionally used for small-scale projects or as a base for productions shooting elsewhere on the island, it is a ghost of its former ambition. It's a classic example of the "if you build it, they will come" fallacy. They built it, a few pirates came, and then they left, permanently. The failure of the studio is a lesson in industrial development. You can't just declare yourself a hub for a global industry. It requires a complex ecosystem of tax policy, education, infrastructure, and private investment. The Bahamas Film Studios had one or two of those pieces, but it was missing the rest of the puzzle. It's another monument to pointless construction. A multi-million-dollar facility built for a party that, for the most part, never arrived. It's a story that's both frustrating and a little sad. The potential was there. The initial burst of activity with a massive franchise like Pirates of the Caribbean was a once-in-a-generation opportunity, but the momentum was lost. The follow-through wasn't there. And now, instead of a bustling movie lot, Grand Bahama has a collection of silent buildings and a very large tank of water, a reminder of a blockbuster dream that ended up going straight to video. Our final stop on this tour of Bahamian follies takes us to Andros, the largest and most sparsely populated island in the archipelago. Andros is known as the Sleeping Giant, a place of vast, untapped potential. In the mid-2010s, the government decided it was time to wake the giant up, starting with a major expansion of the North Andros Airport in San Andros. The vision was clear: a modern international airport to unlock the island's economic potential. The plan was to transform the small, local airstrip into a gateway for tourism and trade. This meant a new, modern terminal building, a longer runway capable of handling larger jets from the United States and beyond, and improved infrastructure. The government awarded a multi-million-dollar contract, and the project was heralded as a critical investment that would bring jobs, attract new hotels, and boost the local agriculture and fishing industries by providing better access to markets. Construction began, and for the people of North Andros, it was a tangible sign of progress. The shell of a new terminal building started to rise from the ground. Work began on extending and fortifying the runway. Heavy equipment and construction crews became a common sight. After years of feeling overlooked, it seemed like the government was finally investing in Andros's future. Hopes were high that this airport would be the catalyst for a new era of prosperity, and then, just as it was getting started, it stopped. The reasons are a familiar cocktail of Bahamian project problems. There were reports of contractual disputes, funding issues, and questions about the quality of the work being done. The project stalled completely. The contractors pulled out, the equipment vanished, and the work site fell silent. The government made promises that work would resume soon, but soon became a very flexible term. Years passed. The half-finished terminal building stood open to the elements. Its concrete shell began to stain and crumble. The new runway extension remained a stretch of unfinished earth and gravel. The project wasn't just delayed, it was abandoned. It became a source of immense frustration and disappointment for the local community, who were left with a monument to a broken promise right at their front door. What you see today in North Andros is a truly pathetic sight. The skeletal remains of the new terminal building stand as a constant, visible reminder of the failure. It's a multi-million-dollar scarecrow. The old, cramped terminal is still in use, right next to the ghost of what was supposed to replace it. It's a daily slap in the face to the residents, a symbol of government incompetence and neglect. This project is perhaps the most poignant of all our examples because of its scale. It wasn't a private developer's gamble, it was a public infrastructure project meant to lift an entire community. Its failure speaks volumes about the challenges of executing even essential projects in the Family Islands. It's a story of poor planning, a lack of oversight, and the devastating impact these failures have on the very people they are meant to help. The abandoned North Andros airport expansion isn't as glamorous a failure as a multi-billion-dollar resort, but in many ways, it's more tragic. It represents a squandered opportunity to provide basic necessary infrastructure that could have genuinely transformed lives. It's a runway that leads nowhere, a terminal that will never welcome a single passenger, and a dream of progress that remains grounded indefinitely on the tarmac of disappointment. So there you have it, from a glittering mega resort that went bankrupt at 97% completion to a runway to nowhere on the nation's largest island. These projects are more than just financial black holes, they are scars on the landscape and on the national psyche. They stand as powerful, expensive lessons in the dangers of unchecked ambition, the fragility of economic bubbles, and the critical importance of proper planning and oversight. Each crumbling wall and rusted piece of rebar tells a story of what could have been and what should never have been attempted in the first place. But this is not just a story of failure, it's also a story of resilience. The Baha Mar saga, for all its chaos, eventually resulted in a functioning resort that employs thousands of Bahamians. The fight against Blackbeard's Cay showed the power of local activism in shaping the country's future. These experiences, as painful as they were, have forced a national conversation about what kind of development is truly beneficial for the Bahamas. The hope is that future leaders and investors will look at these ruins and learn from them. The challenge now is to build a future for the Bahamas that is as sustainable as it is ambitious, one that values local communities and the natural environment as much as it values profit margins. The ghosts of these failed projects will linger for a long time, but they serve as crucial reminders that the path to paradise is paved with good intentions, but it must be built on a foundation of wisdom, foresight, and a genuine commitment to the people who call these beautiful islands home. Which of these projects shocked you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below.